In this video, we'll be revealing the average retirement savings by age 62 and whether you're actually ready to retire based on real data, not just wishful thinking or financial industry marketing. So through analyzing Edward Jones retirement savings data and working with clients who discovered that their savings weren't aligned with their actual retirement readiness or their goals, we've identified the specific benchmarks that determine whether you can confidently retire at 62 or may need to keep working. That's exactly why we're making this video today, to show you the real numbers behind retirement readiness at 62 and to begin to help you to determine whether or not you're financially prepared for the retirement you actually want. So let's get right into it. Now, according to recent Federal Reserve data, Americans aged 55 to 64 have an average of approximately $573,000 in retirement savings. Now, need to point out that averages can be misleading, okay? Many households in this range actually have little to no savings, which is why the median savings, the middle point, is often significantly lower. Now, these numbers really highlight a major issue. A significant portion of Americans heading into retirement are underprepared. So we found this anecdotally in our practice as well. And if you're thinking about retiring at 62, maybe you're near the median, but you're facing a substantial gap between what you have and what you actually need. Another way to think about this is that average figures can also be skewed by a small group of high savers. This can create two types of issues: a false sense of security for some, and very candidly, this is what we see, unnecessary anxiety for others. Retirement readiness isn't how you stack up against the average. It's about whether your savings match your actual expenses and, more importantly, your goals, and in the long run, determine how you spend your time and energy in retirement. That really reveals what's most important. But also the retirement income calculation shows what you actually need to maintain your lifestyle. So let's talk about that. So there's an income replacement calculation that determines your retirement readiness. Now, in this article, it talks about how Edward Jones does it. It's different than the way that I do it, but this is a starting point. Edward Jones benchmark suggests that by age 62, someone earning $100,000 annually should have between $925,000 and a little over $1 million to retire comfortably. So how they define that is interesting, but this is based on their assumptions, right? So retirement age of 65, post-retirement lifespan to 92, that's a 15% savings rate, 6% return before retirement, 5% after. Whether that's reasonable or not, you decide. So for higher earners, the required savings ranges may be significantly higher, right? So someone earning $200,000 should have between $2.4 and $2.8 million saved by age 62. At least this is their idea. So I think what's helpful about these figures is they don't take into consideration, all of the details, right? Are these inflation-adjusted returns? I think so, based on the way that they say it, but they indicate inflation's roughly 3% in their calculation. But here's what's really important about this, in my view, is that this is cookie cutter planning. It's a starting point, and it's you need to understand where you are. But cookie cutter planning does not achieve, in my view, the type of retirement outcome that our clients really want. They want these numbers to be customized to them. They want to know what they can safely spend in retirement, how much they should be saving, what realistic long-term returns should be for a well-diversified portfolio. And I think just assuming averages like this really ends up, in my view, having folks get to and sometimes halfway through retirement with seriously misaligned expectations and goals, and talk about a waste of time and money, right? So this is part of the conversation, but I think we need to go deeper in order to really have clarity about how to fund your goals in retirement. And again, this Edward Jones approach is very simple, right? It should take into account inflation, life expectancy, some healthcare costs. But if you really want to personalize these things, you really need to do some much deeper work and probably hire a comprehensive planner to help you with that. The other challenge is we're just kind of beginning to talk about Social Security here. So let's talk about Social Security, right? The gap that could make at age 62 could make retirement more expensive. Most people know Social Security benefits you can start at 62, but they're permanently reduced by roughly 30% compared to what you'd receive at your full retirement age. So someone expecting about $3,000 a month at full retirement age, they may only get around $2,100 a month if they file early. Now, that income amount can go up over time with cost of living adjustments, but we shouldn't assume that. And so depending on when you turn on that Social Security, or make that change, that could be hundreds of thousands of dollars over your retirement. What's interesting about this too is Edward Jones is really projecting that it's about a 27-year timeline for retirement. We go to age 100. And so they're saying take Social Security at 65, have no portfolio withdrawals until then. That's not something we see sort of in practice. It's really cookie cutter, right? And we want to think about those reduced payments a little bit more. That really compounds over time. That could be between $200,000 and $400,000+ that a couple, could potentially miss out on over their lifespan. And so this is another area where having personalized strategy really makes sense. How's your health? Are you married? Is your spouse going to need to rely on a portion of your Social Security to fund their retirement if something happens to you? So the difference between claiming early and really customizing your Social Security claiming strategy can be dramatically different and can be hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime. Don't miss that. Don't take a cookie cutter answer to this thing, this retirement thing, right? So now that you understand the financial challenges of an age 62 retirement, click the link below where we've created a detailed video showing you exactly how to determine if you're truly ready to retire and how to plan your dream retirement regardless of the situation that you're in. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about here today is the healthcare cost. Now, this is a reality that can really derail an age 62 retirement plan. So most people think retiring at age 62, they tend to lose access to employer-provided health insurance, right? Medicare doesn't kick in typically until 65. Could be 3 years to figure out how to cover health insurance, right? So that could be $20,000, $30,000+, depending on your state and your situation through the marketplace or what have you per year. Those costs sometimes go unaccounted for in a lot of traditional retirement savings models, but they're real and they happen until you hit to 65. And so from a planning perspective, we need to assume that they're going to be there. And so if a major health issue arises during that window without that coverage, there's some significant risk that you could really face that can totally blow up your retirement plan. We don't want that to happen. And even really well-prepared retirees are sometimes forced to go back to work simply because they didn't plan for that type of situation. Healthcare costs can really create some major obstacles, but the reality is that we recommend building a plan to take care of that gap. So let's talk about the lifestyle reality check. Let's assume you've saved the average, $537, $560, according to Edward Jones' article. Now, following the common 4% rule, which I personally don't love, but let's bring that into play here. That gives you about $21,000 a year in retirement income. Add in Social Security, maybe you're around 45, maybe 50 in total income before tax. Now, for many folks, this really won't come close to replicating their pre-retirement lifestyle. And so what we see is that this can lead to some challenges, right? Maybe downsizing your home, maybe moving, foregoing some travel that you want to do and enjoying your time. And that's really what retirement is supposed to be about for most people. But I don't want this to be negative. Some retirees, optimize their lifestyle through sometimes what's called geographic arbitrage, or maybe they're going to scale back their expenses strategically. But the point here is, in my opinion, you should understand, what your savings can support and align your lifestyle accordingly, but do it before you get to retirement. Proactive planning. What do you want to do? What are your goals? What do you have? Do you have the capacity to fund them? Right. So these are the things we got to work through. So now that you understand all the factors affecting age 62 retirement, let's look at how to determine if you're actually ready. So here's the retirement readiness framework to retire at age 62. In my view, through retirement readiness check, that includes calculating what's your income replacement ratio. To do that, you need to know what you spend now and what you'll likely spend in retirement. We need to create a spending plan, accounting for early Social Security reductions potentially, and we need to understand what to do that. We need to understand what your Social Security benefit's going to be. That depends on when you decide to take it. The next step is figuring out what your plan for health insurance is going to be until Medicare kicks in. The other thing we need to figure out is really what's the plan for long-term care? How are you going to pay for that if it happens? This is one of the things that I think most people don't like to deal with and don't have a plan for. We're seeing that more and more. And so this is a critical component. We don't want you to miss this. Next, you've got to stress test your portfolio. You've got to deal with inflation, volatility, and your longevity assumptions. Once we figure out what you need to spend in retirement, can your portfolio sustain that? How much risk are you taking? Is it enough risk? Are you diversified enough? Do you have the right asset mix and the right assets in the right account in order to accomplish your goals? And how do you stress test it? How do you know that's the case? Let's say you do all that. Have you aligned your desired lifestyle with your wealth? How do you combine these things? Your time, your energy, your money, your attention. How do you make these things work together with the values that you have and what it means to spend well? That, in my opinion, is really important. And so to get accurate results, I think we need to use conservative assumptions. We're going to plan for higher inflation than may be realistic. We're going to plan for lower cost of living adjustments on guaranteed income. We're going to use really conservative long-term rates of return, and I think longer lifespans than most people expect. I'd do at least 8 years longer than Edward Jones because I don't like surprises, and I don't think you should either. Now, this is an area, in my opinion, that you want to work with a certified financial planner who understands the specificity of retirement planning, getting to and through retirement, and in my view, someone who understands estate planning as well, and isn't going to just put you into a cookie cutter plan. And if you're unsure of where you're at, get help. Start to ask these questions. That clarity can bring confidence, and that's what really empowers a great retirement, at least in my experience. And the right framework really helps you to avoid regret, and so that you can retire with clarity, not confusion. So now that you understand the average retirement savings at age 62, the complete framework for determining whether or not you're actually ready to retire, you can make informed decisions based on really your plan rather than just wishful thinking or incomplete comparisons to the Joneses. And if you're ready to get our help determining whether you're truly prepared for retirement, click the link below. We've created a comprehensive video showing you exactly how to build the retirement readiness you need. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. We'll see you in the next video.